All right, welcome to our Thursday live stream. So, continuing on our path, as we always do, let's do a real quick review. We've been working on, we set our template. What are we doing? What are components of our program? What goals are we training for? We've talked about energy systems on Monday, which will continue next Monday because we're building our conditioning program. One of the things I kind of wanted to diverge on today is talking specifically about lateral power. It's probably more often than not the most overlooked component of training programs. I see a lot of, let's just call it vanilla stuff out there that is mostly inline sagittal plane work. So let's do a real quick anatomy lesson because I like to throw some knowledge out there, and then let's talk lateral power. So when I think of training or when I think of creating a specific program, regardless of who it is, doesn't matter what sport, doesn't matter what age, it really doesn't matter. It really is the goals, any injuries, predispositions, and things like that, right? So there's a lot that goes into it, but one of the underlying tenets that I try to keep to is moving in multiple planes of movement. And I think that's where the whole functional training, what's the word I'm thinking of? The functional training kind of culture or name, programming came from, right? So when you say functional training, what do you think of? And I'd love to, if you guys got questions, again, this is real time on this feed. If you got questions, please ping in. Ariel's here to help out as well tonight. So ping in, he's gonna yell out. If you guys got anything that's just swimming around in your head, just type it in and let us know, but we're gonna keep on trucking. So functional training, I think of training in specific planes of movement, right? So there are essentially 3 planes of movement, so bear with me. So everything moving, it's easy to kind of think of here if I'm standing. Everything moving this direction, right? So forwards and backwards. All the joints, all of my movement patterns are moving in this direction. That is called sagittal plane. So it would be running, sprinting, squats, lunges, and anything that you can think of. Most everything that we do and train in a standard gym is sagittal plane, right? So forwards and backwards. The other one is frontal plane. So basically cut yourself in half. And I know you think frontal, it's like, how the hell is this frontal? Frontal is left to right, right? So cut yourself in half. And now it's everything this direction, right? And so it's all left to right movement. So it's a lot of AB away from and AD towards a midline, AB or adduction. You guys may have heard us say those terms a lot. So abduction, abduction to take away from your midline, adduction to pull in towards your midline. So that's an easy way to think of it. So, and depending on which plane of movement, right? Let's not get bogged down by the minutia of it. And then the third plane is transverse. And so transverse is all of our rotational, right? So it's across the plane of movement. So it's through. Think of a tennis swing, backhand, forehand. Both of them are the same. They're transverse. Golf swing, and anything with a racket or a bat in your hand, right, is a rotational sport. But most sports are rotational by nature because they inherently are multi-directional. Now, the offset of that, or the offshoot of that, is in the thinking process anyway, is why do we train then primarily in sagittal plane, forwards and backwards? Well, reason number one, we more naturally move in that plane. And I say we, I just kind of mean that as a general term, right? Vice Athletics essentially consistently trains in multiple planes, and we try to push that. And that is essentially our mantra here, is we do train in those planes. But moving in sagittal plane is pretty natural and pretty easy. I mean, we're built and we're designed to move in that plane pretty readily and pretty efficiently, right? So I'm just thinking about walking long distances, being able to do things very simply. And from a coordination standpoint, it's essentially the lowest hanging fruit. It's the first thing that we learn how to do. We don't laterally walk when we're little babies. We stand up and we move forward. So it's a natural progression of things. And so a lot of times it takes a lot of work and energy to get better at moving in different planes of movement. So, where are we going with this? At the end of the day, the hardest plane to move in is frontal. It's usually our weakest plane. And it's our weakest plane for a lot of reasons. Most of our bigger muscles are lined with our joints, in line with the joints, right? So you've got these tiny little stabilizers, AV and adductors of your hips that are really small. They're powerful muscles, but they're really small muscles and they're stabilizers. So they're more readily designed and built for sagittal plane movement. Unfortunately, sports require a hell of a lot more than sagittal plane movement. So that's why we do a lot of our movement left to right. So hopefully that gives you kind of a little bit of an overview as to how we think dimensionally and how we try to put you in different planes of movement and why we do specific exercises in a specific order on a specific day. So from our standpoint, that just kind of logically makes sense, and that's how we build programs. So what we'll do is, what I wanted to do today at least was to take like a 3-step process into starting to develop lateral power, right? And I gotta make one more differentiation. It's not lateral quickness, it's lateral power. So we're not talking about how fast can you move to your left or to your right. We're talking about how explosively can you move from your left to your right. And I know you're thinking, like, what the hell are you talking about? What we are trying to do is improve your ability to decelerate and change directions, right? So I can be quick when I'm hot, and I'm thinking specifically of doing ladder drills, right? So I can get really, really good at moving laterally on a ladder drill when I'm super high and in no way, shape, or form athletic in an athletic position, right? So if you're just blindly going through a lateral drill and I say, stop, change directions, how quickly can you do it, right? So the unanticipated cut there would take you a lot of time because you're so high. What's the first thing you have to do? Drop your ass, drop your center, and then get back moving the other direction. So a lot of why we do this first, well, we'll do our ladders for warm up, but the first learning curve that we kind of throw at our athletes and pretty much everybody that comes through here is how to load into your hip and then push off the outside edge of your foot to gain power and explosivity. And again, through that, this is what we always say, it will make you more resilient to injury. It'll make you pretty damn indestructible. So let's start step number 1. So I'm gonna have Errol hop on in. So all we're gonna do, and again, you don't need anything. I'm using the cones for our reference point, so it's easier for you guys to see. And so I am literally gonna have him stand on his left foot. I think you're good there on the screen. Yep. So I'm gonna have him load into his hips, and he's gonna load straight down into the floor, and then he's gonna push himself off laterally and land onto his right foot. So go ahead and just do 1 rep, hop and stick. Got it, and then we'll do the same thing. So let's go back to your left. So I'll have you just do from left to right. Just left to right. Yep, and I'll keep talking over you. So he's loading into his hips, and he's loading onto his left leg, and he's powering off and landing on his right leg. These are both equally important decisions. We just train legs. That's on the blooper wheel. In his defense, we did just do some freaking heavy deadlifts. So disregard those first 3. So it is equally, there we go, nice, good shit. All right, it is equally as important that his left side, so if I'm gonna do a freeze frame, right? So go ahead, and I'm gonna do one more, I promise, and we're done. So freeze frame at the bottom. Right, so you can kind of see his load position. He's got a bent knee, he's got a hinged hip, he's got a good neutral spine, and then go ahead and do your rep and stick, hopefully. Got it. And so his stick position on the other side looks exactly the same. So more often than not, we'll get athletes that start on their left foot, and they're not gonna preload, and they're gonna hop over to their right side and just stick. They're more thinking about the I don't want to stumble and I don't want to fall, as opposed to sticking the landing and decelerating. So what we have found is that if we take the time to hone in on the start position, so this is my start position, drive, and then there's my landing position. So your brain starts to put those 2 things together. So what happens is you're going to have a tendency to copy both sides of that, right? So if I start high on my left side, I'm going to end up landing high on my right side. Now, how do we tie these together? So this is the second trickiest part. So you've got to be able to decelerate, gain depth, and then go back the opposite direction. I'm going to show you the right way to do it, and I'll do the wrong examples. I'll do all the wrong ones. So let's do 6 reps total back and forth. So you're going to drive 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to let him go through this set of 6. And again, focus on his foot position as he lands. Yep. Good. And you can watch his right leg and then watch his left leg, and you can see the amount of energy that he's putting into that push-off phase, right? So in order to become more powerful laterally, you got to get both sides to tie together. So if I'm loading here, yes, I'm thinking about the left side, but I'm also thinking about explosively leading with my right leg. They both work together. So I've got to lead with the right leg and then also push off the left edge of my shoe. So if I just load here but I don't jump with my right side, I'll have a tendency to land short and high. So you want to be able to tie those two sides together. And then that makes it, again, more readily doable and repeatable to get left and right. So on the last set, I'm going to have you do 6 with no pause. So you're just going to hop, 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 hop. You're still looking for distance. So on the last set of 6, what I'm going to have him focus on now is repeatability, make every rep look identical as far as depth goes, and then there's no stop at either side, right? So a lot of times, and we'll have our athletes stop on their last rep. I'm not going to make him stop today, but we're just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we're done with the set. But I want you to see how he ties all these together repeatedly. I'm going to let him rip through 6. Ready? Go. Load, go. Load, go. Load, go. Load, go. Good. Nice. Good. And you can kind of see, like we've done these a million times. I would not suspect that you can get this done on your first try, okay? These are things that take a lot of practice, and it's something that, again, is you have to have some intent and some focus with it to get better at it. If you are staying high, you're not increasing your power production at all. If you're staying high, you're not decreasing your risk of injury at all. So we try to harp on that as much as humanly possible. Because for the most part, it's going to make you a better athlete, right? And if you are really, really good at moving laterally, you are really, really good at doing a lot of different things. So whether it's tennis, whether it's football, whether it's basketball, all of these sports combined, the skill sets are very, very familiar in all of these sports. Now, the training and the conditioning is different, but the skill sets are very familiar. So you got to be able to decelerate into a lateral position. So let's say we've gotten through this and we've mastered that, right? So the next thing that I like to do is either, and today we're just going to do a hop to a transition. So the way that you can make this sports applicable is we can change your foot position, we can ask you to land in a different position, or you can look for different power positions that you can push off of, right? So today we're going to do just a 90-degree rotation to a stop. So it's the exact same thing where I'm going to start on my left foot and I'm going to push off of the left foot and I'm going to stop like I'm going to jump from that position, right? So you're going to push off and jump, like you're going to either shoot a jumper or you're going to block at the net. So the tempo, again, is that it's frontal plane, left to right, but we're actually starting to add some transverse, right? So we have some rotational motion to it. So what I have you do, Ariel, is I'll kind of talk through it as you do it. Let's just do 2 per side. We'll go to your left or to your right twice and to your left twice. All right, so I'm going to let him go through a couple reps. It's the exact same load position. Whenever you're ready, brother. Yep. Load, twist. Got it. Load, twist. You got it. Get a solid push off. Good. And he is covering some ground. Those cones are 18 feet apart. I shit you not. It's all about cameras. It's all about camera angles. Right? So, again, what I'm asking him to do is he's driving through the lateral edge of his shoe. He's opening his hips. And then if you notice, I'm going to do one one more set. If you notice, watch his feet. Let's do 4. Yeah, 4 total. Watch his feet land. Okay, so pay really close attention. He's pushing off of his left foot, but watch what his feet do as he comes and wraps around. So we're going to drive. Got it. He is landing with both feet at the same time and both feet square. Not easy to do, right? So that is that power production exercise that it puts the emphasis on keeping everything tied together, right? So if I'm doing that exercise and I'm doing the old 1-2, that definitely gets into a little bit more of a volleyball specific move. But what we are trying to do is we're trying to build a reactionary position. And again, you can do it a couple different ways. The way that I like to teach it is usually the harder way first. So he's wrapping and whipping his feet around to get his feet back to square. And then in that position, as you're here, as you get your feet square, again, I'm ready to go and react either direction from that position, whether it's vertical, left, or right. Okay, got it. So those are the 2 unilateral exercises that I wanted to throw at you guys today. And then I'm going to do one more double leg exercise. And again, this is a little bit more for, it is power production, but it's bilateral. So the first 2 exercises we did, those are unilateral exercises. Basically, you're emphasizing one side versus the other. We like to do those unilateral exercises just because we can see differences between left and right. It gives us a pretty good reading on which side that you favor. And then if there are huge discrepancies between left side and right side, then from our perspective, that leads to, those are injury mechanisms, right? So asymmetries like that are injury mechanisms, and those are things that we want to try to balance and bring into balance and put a focus on so that left and right are operating efficiently and they are working together, as opposed to me just preferring to jump off my left foot. Tricky and hard to do. It takes a shit ton of practice. I get it, and I'm sure most of you guys out there favor one side versus another, and that's fine. But when we practice it and when we drill it in here, we're trying. That's one of the reasons that we do unilateral strength training, is that we can break it down so that then we are bilaterally symmetrical. That's a mouthful. All right, so the last one we're going to do is we're going to do just a preload lateral hop. So I'm going to have him do just a mini squat jump and then an explosive lateral jump. So we'll use the cones as reference points. So everything you're doing will be square to the, I know that's a pain in the butt. Will be square to the camera. So he's going to do just a mini jump as a preload. His feet are staying together, and then he's jumping maximally to his right. Yeah, so you'll land there. Yeah, so it's our old school. What's that? No, just one at a time. Let's just do 4 total. So it's a little mini jump, and then explosive lateral hop. Ah, busted my floor. Explosive lateral hop, and then stick the landing. Stick half a step back. Got it. You gotta do 2 more, man. Come on, that was a major distraction. All right, pop, lateral, stick. Good. So this is a really good drill. Again, and it's the last one we're gonna do today, but here's strategically how I want you to think of that exercise. It's not a conditioning drill, right? So we're not trying to do 50 reps there. I just had him do a set of 4, and we do them one at a time. So think of this as like our set of squat jumps where we do 3 sets of 5 or 6, or we do three maximal effort reps. On this set, I would do this maximally for 10. So think of doing 10 sets of 1. And then the reason that I like the cones, so if you're outside or outdoors, I like to measure distance. So again, I really don't know how far apart these cones are, but I could just take a guess. They're probably about 6 or 7 feet. 1, 2, so it's just over 6 foot. And so if I'm outside and I'm doing this drill and I've got reference points on the floor or on the grass, I want to keep track of how far I'm jumping, right? Because I do want to push the edges. And remember, kind of everything that we've talked about up to this point has been working in energy systems and working in different phases, working in different plans, but it's always been about working at volition and working at that maximal distance or maximal speed, or at least maximal intent, right? I realize all days aren't created the same. So if I go out tomorrow and I do these 3 drills and I've got my cones, or reference point, right? It doesn't have to be cones, it can be whatever, towels. And I want to make sure that I've got a solid reference point so that in the future, when I try these again next week, I'm going to scoot them a little further apart. Or even throughout the workout itself, I want to try and scoot them further apart. Because if I don't have any reference point, basically, then I don't have anything to push the edge of how far I can actually jump. So that's the whole premise there, especially if you're not working. I mean, if you're working here with us, I mean, we're going to scoop those cones apart. We're just going to do it. That's just in our nature because we know how far you can jump laterally, and we know when you're being lazy. But if you're doing this drill on your own, you got to make sure that you got to find a way to push the edge. And so usually using reference points like that really helps. So those are 3 hopefully pretty simple, straightforward drills, all lateral, frontal plane movement that you can start incorporating today. I'd say anybody at any skill set can start doing these exercises today and start getting better at them and then learn how, and then it's easy enough to progress from there, right? I mean, there's an infinite number of exercises we can move forward from. But I think that's a really good unilateral side where you're driving off your left foot and then you're pushing off your left foot to rotate. And then the third one is a really good lateral maximal exercise to start using. And again, specifically as it relates to power production in the frontal plane, it's usually the most overlooked, underrated asset that we can use and develop as it relates to sports training and athletic development. What do you think? Good? Yeah. All right. I think we're good to go. Hopefully you guys picked up something today. And I think that's it, man. Have a great Memorial weekend. We are not going to do a live stream on Monday, Memorial Day, but we will do it on Tuesday and Thursday of next week. We're just going to bump it a day. Outside of that, stay tuned, and we will see you all soon. Thank you.